Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for our boot camp series this week for new grads. In our Warrior Words of Wisdom series, we have Sean Wooldridge here for you today. He is an alum of Indiana Tech from the College of Engineering. He's a product systems engineer at Accutemp Products here in the Fort. And he is here today to talk with our career peer, Daniel Sender, who did an informational interview with him. Informational interviews are really the best way to connect with an employer or someone who works for a company that you really want to work for, to see, just to talk about the jobs that are in there, that company, the company culture. Do they like the shifts they work? What do they really do? So we're going to get down to the bare bones of an informational interview. And I'm going to turn this over to Daniel, and he will explain how he went about connecting with Sean. Go ahead, Daniel.
So last semester we had a iTech's career fair at Indiana Tech, and there were some people from Accutemp, and I talked to them, and I was really interested on the company and what they do. And it's an area of mechanical engineering that I'm really into. And I wanted to understand more about what the company does. So I looked something up. I went into their website and everything. And later that same day, I got an email scheduling a phone interview with them. And I didn't feel like I had enough information on the company just by looking at the website, right? So I mentioned in the career center that I got a phone interview and I wanted to know some more about the company. And Amy said, so look Sean Wooldridge up. He's an alum from Indiana Tech. He was an intern at Accutemp, and then he became a full-time. And I was like, okay. I asked to connect with Sean, and he accepted right away. So I sent him a message saying, hey, Sean, I'd like to know if you're, so I'm Daniel Sander, this and that, explained who I was and the situation. And I said that I wanted to ask him some questions and if it was available or how I could contact him. And I was very impressed, well impressed, like for good, that he's saying, oh yeah, sure, just give me a call whenever you want. And I was like, okay, that's nice.
Very nice.
And then I wrote some things down of like what I wanted to ask him, but I'm more of a as it goes kind of guy. So we were talking, and some things were popping up in my head, and I wanted to understand more about how his internship was there and what he thought about the company at the time, and then what changed when he became a full-time. And by hearing those type of things, you get an inside view, which is a complete different view than you would get from a website or an article or an article even. So that was very helpful for me because I got to understand how the company works and how the company treats their employees. And I was impressed for good again with the company. So I got the phone interview. It went really well. In the end, things didn't work out, I believe, because of the COVID situation, and Accutemp didn't choose to pursue an intern at the moment. But I believe our story isn't over yet.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
Go ahead, Sean. Would you like to expand on that a little bit and how you and Daniel did connect that way?
Sure. A couple things that jumped out at me. One, when you said you wrote a couple of things down, I would strongly recommend that because you can rehearse in your head a bunch of times what you're going to say, and the next thing you know, you end up on the phone and you panic. So it's not
Yeah.
a bad idea to have little cues sitting there. Nobody can see you. They can't see you've got your cheat sheet on the wall. It's not a bad idea at all. With the I I am I was impressed with Daniel, the idea that he would reach out and want to know as much as he can about the company before he did the full interview. In a lot of cases, when we're interviewing intern candidates and engineer candidates, a big part of that is whether or not the fit is there and the interest is there. You would think it would be a given, but we're trying to sort of weed out the people who are just kind of throwing darts and seeing what sticks. To some extent, you kind of have to do that. You can't know everything about every company, but the idea of somebody reaching out and wanting to know more about a company before the interview even goes, that's a huge plus as far as knowing that somebody really is interested and really is taking this seriously. So that's I would highly encourage anybody that sees this to take that same step. I would be careful. I think it's a positive thing when you're reaching out to make sure that a company is the right fit, because it's better for everybody if you're in a position that reasonably matches your skill set and your interests, etc. You want to be a little bit careful about coming across like you're sort of trying to sniff out negative things about the company. I would try and ask something like, what typically happens there? Do you guys? I'm interested in heat transfer, and it seems like you guys do a lot of that. Can you tell me about that? You can get certain nuggets if you can sort of maybe steer the conversation towards how what the hours are and what the work conditions are like. But you want to be a little bit careful about, like I said, about trying to sniff out negative things about the company, because it's you want to be a little bit you want to find that stuff out, but you don't want to necessarily come across like you're doing that. So I'd be a little bit careful about that. But yeah, the idea of an informational interview, I would certainly grant that to anybody. I'm very pro Indiana Tech. I'm a little biased, but I yeah
With
well, I recognize that I didn't do all this alone. I did my best and I got the grades and did the work. But at some point, somebody's got to take a chance on you. Somebody has got to say, okay, this guy, let's do this. And if I can sort of be that for somebody else, knowing that other people had done that for me, I'm all for that.
Yes, awesome. I know I wanted to kind of stress, I'm so glad you brought that up. I want to stress, to students that would be watching that it is a learning interview for you, and that you don't want to try and sell yourself or basically, beg them for a job or beg them for an interview. You want to come across as you are learning from them. They are the teacher. And exactly, you don't want to, what do you hate about that job? You don't want to do any of that. And basically do your research, actually go to the website first. Um, so basically Daniel did everything right. But we know that's how Daniel is. But yes, I wondered, have you had anyone else reach out to you, Sean?
I have not.
Okay.
I would be glad to talk to somebody, but that Daniel was the first and only. There were other United Tech students that we've interviewed. We've gotten some resumes and made some choices, but that's the first one that wanted to kind of do their homework ahead of time.
Right.
So well done.
That would be a first time.
Yeah.
I was wanting to say something. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, and Amy as well. But I feel like when we're talking about informational interview, we're talking less about how an interview would go with the company and more about what the company is and what you do and what you expect from an intern. Since I believe that, well, HR managers and even your direct managers, they're not looking forward to your interview. They're looking forward to you working for them, right? So they're looking forward to your work. So what I'm thinking is, if you want to know about the company, informational interview is a great resource. But I don't feel like it would be a good use of time to be asking about how an interview would go and what they will ask, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel there's way more information that you can get from that person at that moment other than just interview related questions, right? I feel like I was interviewing Sean about his experience there.
Yes, and that's a fantastic point. That's exactly how it should feel. Yes. And I know another, really good tip is just, you want to search out the people that you want to talk about in the company that has your title, or like Daniel said, who knows that person did an internship there, and what can he expect, and what kind of roles would he be playing? Basically, what would he be learning there as an intern? So all of that just is based around the fact that it is a learning situation, and it could always help, but because Sean can go there saying, "Hey, we're gonna interview this Cinder kid," and Sean's like, "Hey, I connected with him. He was totally so interested in it. Definitely, you want to look at him and think about him." So that in itself is the main goal of it. I know we encourage students to look on LinkedIn for alumni, different places they are. Our alumni are fantastic. They're so open and welcoming to students who are um, needing help, needing questions. We as a career center, we encourage students to do that. It's really often hard for them to, well, they don't know me. Well, they have something in common with you, and that's your education, and especially in the same college that you're in. So we always want to encourage students to do that. Of course, if they need help, we're here at the Career Center and we will help you do that. And it just happened to be offhand that Danny said that to me about AccuTemp. And I was like, hey, I remembered that Sean was there. I remember Sean being in the Career Center. I remember his, climb up to where he's at now. So yeah, all those things are really, really good to help you along in your steps in your career.
I would like to add that you mentioned the alumni. One of the things that struck me about Indiana Tech when I was first kind of checking out different colleges was that Indiana Tech does appear to have a group of alumni who love this place, and I'm one of them now, frankly. But that is a huge, strong point. But I have 3 siblings, and all of them have degrees. I've kind of, to certain degrees, seen lots of different colleges, and Indiana Tech is very strong as far as the alumni being supportive in terms of the scholarships, in terms of the help and that kind of thing. So definitely, I'd like to echo that. Don't be afraid to reach out, because I mean, yeah, I don't know you, but there are 0 people in the world that I knew when I was born. So all of them I was introduced to them at some point. So I went from not knowing them to knowing them, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's a great concept. Absolutely.
I also want to mention the one of the top things I'm looking for in any intern candidate is whether or not they're coachable. I like to think that if somebody's willing to learn something, I can teach them just about anything, and that when you're reaching out for an informational interview, that's a huge plus in terms of showing that you're coachable as well. The fact that you're looking for this information in the first place goes a long way. Different people are looking for different things, but that's certainly something that I favor pretty strongly, because I'm picturing 6 months from now, we need to get this project done. And if I can show you once and you can use some critical thinking and move forward, that's a big difference between that and, if I have to explain something a bunch of times and you kind of have your own way you want to do things and it doesn't mesh, so to be coachable is a big thing. And it's a good indicator that you are coachable if you reach out for an informational interview or like that.
Definitely. Yeah, we try and stress to students. It shows your character and it shows your integrity. And the worst thing you can be told is, no, I don't have time, and then you just go on to the next. So we encourage that strongly connection. We push LinkedIn all the time. So yeah, I know it's worked out really well for many of our students. So yeah.
I wanted to add something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so after, like during my informational interview with Sean, I felt the need to take down a bunch of stuff since I had some questions that I wrote before the interview. I felt like I needed to write some things that he was telling me and not like in a classroom, just keywords that would make me remember what he told me later on. And then on the day of my actual interview, my phone interview, I had the I had the notes with me,
Very
and
nice.
that and if they don't ask you anything about that, okay, but it gives you some tranquility. You know, you're more relaxed with it. It gives you some, at least you think you have some more background on what they're asking you.
Yes, I agree.
I agree too.
Yes. Well, for wrap up, I want to leave the students who are watching, who can watch later on YouTube, with a little, some little reminders. So number one, we want to find an appropriate target for our informational interview. And we went over that. You want to connect with alumni. You want to ask your career center for help. You want to find someone that's either had the job or internship you're pursuing, or someone with the same job title. You just don't want anyone that's in that company. Number two, we want to request a meeting, whether that be over LinkedIn or an email or another way. And you want to be open to that meeting because that person works full time, very busy. And you want to be able to, if it's just a phone call, fantastic. That's even better. It's way more personal. But if it's just a chat over LinkedIn or a couple emails back and forth, you want to be available for that person. Number three, like Danny said, come prepared. Just like if you're going to have a regular interview, you want to be prepared. Like Sean said, things are going around in your head, but if you have them written down, first of all, you'll be taking up less time for that person. You'll also be way more focused. And as the conversation usually does, it can lead to other things and can bring things up for you. But at least you have that and you're not like, trying to think of things. So you want to do that. Number four, we don't want to make it about you. You are learning from them. You're not trying to sell yourself. You're not trying to ask for an interview. You don't want to do any of that. You want to just learn about that person and his role in the company. And finally, listen to your gut. This is a universal thing for all people. Was your conversation easy? Did you like the things that he or she said about the company? Do you feel like that would be a culture you would be a good fit in? All of those things. And, you don't ever want to push something that doesn't feel good or right, or, so you just want to listen to your gut and follow through with that. So those are quick little 5 steps. Like I said, this will be posted on YouTube later. Do we have some in the chat? Some people, does anyone have a question for either Daniel or Sean?
I do know everything, so.
Yes, I mean, we have him here. We might as well ask questions. Well, it doesn't look like we have any right now. Do you guys have anything else you would like to add? This has been great. It's been great.
Just thinking.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Sorry, Sean. Please go ahead.
Okay. I would like to say, I do agree that the informational interview isn't, that there should be a distinction between an informational interview and an actual interview. I'm not sure I entirely agree that you don't necessarily want to sell yourself to some extent, because you are going to create an impression whether you want to or not. So I think I understand what you're saying, that you don't want to, want it to be your way to kind of weasel your way in, but I would keep in mind that you are creating an impression whether it's intentional or not. So don't think that they're completely unrelated.
Good point. Absolutely. Daniel?
Yes, I wanted to thank Amy and the Career Center for the opportunity, and of course, thanks, Sean, not only for being present today, but of course for helping me with my informational interview. It's great to know that we have some people that we can count on, even though we don't know them personally. Thank you.
Well,
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys both so much. Um, and Sean, good luck. We'll keep in touch. And Daniel, I will see you.
See
All
you.
right. Everyone can find this on our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and type in search Indiana Tech Career Center. And we have all of our playlists there, and you can view this anytime you want. Thank you very much. See ya.
yes.
Oh, wait.
I guess they